take a peek at the Fuso starting grid and have a look at the way in which they line up. And it's Jason Bright who's got the pole. He's got form at this racetrack, and so has Shane Van Gisbergen, and we know that he's strong in the wet. Scotty McLaughlin, second row of the grid alongside Jamie Whincup, six-time V8 Supercar champion from James Courtney and Mark Winterbottom. The boys from Sydney's West will duke it out from that row of the grid. 7 and 8, David Reynolds and Tim Slade, didn't they do a great job in the previous race, both of them getting on the podium. Garth Tander and Fabian Coulthard from 9 and 10. Then it's Scott Pye, and they've resolved all the problems that car had after the last race and the damage that it got. Chaz Mostert next in the queue, followed by Nick Percat and Rick Kelly. Congratulations to Ricky's 400th start for his brother Todd. 450th start at this race. Then Michael Caruso. So the Nissan boys are all locked together again. Dale Wood, who had a bit of action down at turn 1 with Jack Perkins. Then we've got Russell Ingall here, car number 23 in the Holden Commodore. Further afield, David Wall, Robert Dahlgren. David's on the move next year, so is Robert back to Europe. Jack Perkins spoke about him. And Craig Lowndes, just incredible performance by Red Bull Racing Australia just to turn that car around earlier in the day. Lee Holdsworth, had a chat to him a moment ago. And Marcus Ambrose, who didn't have the best of qualifying, but had quite a spring in his step there a moment ago, and we had a brief chat. Here we go, on board with him at the moment. So in oval racing, there is no wet weather running in the US. So, and as he said before in that interview earlier, only done a little bit of road course running. So for him, I didn't actually ask the question directly, but it's a long, long time ago since he had a run on a wet racing track.
And I look down at this start finish straight down here, boys. That is very, very threatening right ahead. And remember, there's a compulsory pit stop in this race. You have to put on 2 tyres. Remember, that can be 2 wet tyres if you like. So the trick here is, do you come in early like everyone we saw in the earlier race did, which is the best strategy, or do you hang out there and wait for the rain to come? And if it doesn't come, you've compromised your strategy, and that will be the trick today.
Weird thing about weather is that, you know, it doesn't always necessarily follow that it goes exactly according to the plan, and you can dodge and weave and be all over the place. And on a day like this, it can be incredibly wet in one postcode and dry in another. In fact, the big issue here back in 2010 was the fact that one part of the track was absolutely wet and the other part was absolutely dry, which was creating conversations on the radio between the drivers, and anybody that paused to think about it ate concrete.
Well, that's right. It was dry on start-finish straight, and it was hosing with rain around the back of the circuit and at turn 5. So we've got 11 in-car cameras covering all the action again for this 125k 37-lap event.
The thing that Garth Tander said to me downstairs a moment ago also was that he said, if it's dry, don't be surprised if we really struggle with brakes in this one. They can't change them between races. And we saw a bit of brake stress in the previous one. This place is very, very hard on brakes when you're racing hard nose to tail with other cars. Now, our facts man, Aaron Noonan, has been frantically searching the archive, and we reckon that Marcus has done a little bit of wet weather running on road courses in NASCAR. Can't put a date on it at the moment, but point being here that it's been a while. In fact, we haven't even had a lot of it in our universe. They haven't had to break out the Dunlop wets too much. Here we go. Race number 37. Jamie grabs first gear. It's Bright alongside Van Gisbergen. A lot of wheel spin for Bright. Whincup looks to spear down the middle. He jams left. McLaughlin goes with him. They will run 4 wide to turn 1. This will be interesting. Bright cops a whack. McLaughlin cops a whack. Unbelievable. Whincup pops out the other side as the race leader. Oh, trouble for Marcus Ambrose. Jack Perkins tangled up with him, and Ambrose pointing the wrong way at 1.
Big dent in the Xbox door there because contact at 1 as everyone runs through this chicane at turn 2 and turn 3. That was very lively. 4 abreast into turn 1. Great start by Whincup, who got the best drive traction and come by Shane Van Gisbergen, and Van Gisbergen was caught wide. McLaughlin was the guy that probably could have got the inside of the whole lot also. Bright, who got a little bit too much wheel spin and was too sideways off the start, got caught out also. So great job by Whincup as they fly and slide their way through turn 8 down Dawn Fraser Avenue.
That was Nick Percat that was having a big slide through 8. It's a remarkable first corner. And they all headed down there virtually 4 wide, and extraordinary to consider that Whincup pops out the other side as the race leader. He's got Bright right behind. Then it's McLaughlin followed then by Van Gisbergen, then Courtney.
Mirror gone. So lap 1, Whincup comes onto the straight, wipes the right-hand mirror off the car. So Whincup, Bright, McLaughlin, Van Gisbergen, Courtney, Winterbottom, Reynolds, Slade, Tander, Coulthard, Rick Kelly, Scott Pye down the inside there, Tander on Slade. That's for position 8.
Bright's managing to shadow Whincup here. It's an amazing business sometimes. There's no way I would have said that Whincup could come out the other side of turn 1 in the lead, and sometimes when things work for you, they just do. It's an amazing business.
Well, and it's not just that, because McLaughlin had the choice of, if he was slightly deeper under brakes, he would have fired Whincup off, he would have put him in the tyres. So it was so close to getting away with it, and he did.
It's a telling image for 2 reasons: how much track they use and just what that skyline looks like. Now, what Scott McLaughlin's done is he's sharpened up the behaviour of this car. He's changed the rear roll centre in the car so that the car turns and steers better, which you need on a street circuit, but he's under attack here at the moment from Van Gisbergen, who I think has got him. Scott will try and stay high on the outside so that he's got the left-hander covered, but he doesn't. So drops a spot, and Courtney's in. And that little dive coming into turn 13 for James Courtney will actually make his corner exit just a fraction slower, and he's got Winterbottom right behind him.
Scott just edged the car across then, just to move a little bit of gamesmanship, just move the car over, slightly block. He didn't block totally, he wasn't right down the inside, but he just moved it over. There's the plus fitness heart rate for Courtney. Early laps, always more stressful. Start, always more stressful. And this circuit, the whole place is stressful. Courtney, who got, as Neil said, a bad run onto the start-finish straight. Looked like he had to block a little bit for Winterbottom, but he was more interested in getting down the inside of McLaughlin. Big slide there for Van Gisbergen and McLaughlin coming out of the bus stop up to turn 8. This is the replay. Big sort of sideways wheel spin action there for Jason Bright. And this is this beautiful start by Whincup, who got the best drive traction of the lot.
He manages that wheel spin very well. So here he is, he goes to the left. Now to his left further is McLaughlin. He gets a little bump. Said B1 and B2. And out the other side pops Jamie Whincup. Here it is from the other angle. So a little bit too much wheel spin for Bright. Watch on the right-hand side of your screen as McLaughlin just makes little contact in the left rear corner of Whincup's car. They all managed to resolve it.
Only just.
Yes, that's right, with the exception of Marcus Ambrose, who got some help here from Craig Lowndes. So it was Craig Lowndes and Jack Perkins that were the participants in that.
That's right, that was Lowndes. So he's given Marcus a little turnaround there at turn 1, and Jack was caught up in that at the end with a little bit of contact with the 2 Falcons, but it wasn't Jack's fault there. So Marcus Ambrose rotates the car, he's back on track, but he's in 26. So Whincup leading. Good battle here with Bright, Van Gisbergen, McLaughlin and Courtney. Very, very similar car speed with these 4 runners between 2nd and 5th. Winterbottom's not too far back either. This is this great corner. We've seen some action there over the years, and this run down Dawn Fraser Avenue. They make about 225 kilometres an hour here. 5th gear, back to 60k for a very, very slow left-hander, which is 1st gear. And I think Van Gisbergen's probably got slightly better pace than Jason Bright. He's just not able at this point to find a way by.
I've just been looking at data, even though he's not in contention at the moment, but Ambrose at the back in clean air is only running about 3 to 4 tenths of a second slower than Whincup, the race leader,
right,
who's just done the best lap of the race, 1 minute 29.3, by the way. And in the previous race, I reckon he was 3/4 of a second to a second away from Whincup. So they've definitely made a gain with the changes to the car. But even though he's 26 at the moment, he's got good lap speed. Now, Van Gisbergen in several locations around the track is a threat to Jason Bright, but there's a couple of spots where the car is sliding too much, and that was one that we just saw there through turn 1.
Tander and Reynolds having a pretty healthy battle there for 7th and 8th. Reynolds fires up the inside. Now this is not done because this is the run down to turn 5. Great Coates Hire chopper shots here of one of the fastest and best corners in Australian motorsport. Really quick entry, 210k. We saw Ambrose, Holdsworth and Lowndes all crash heavily there earlier today. And Reynolds gets by. He's got a little run now. This is this turn 8 corner that's got a very late apex and a lot of camber drop off on the exit. Encourages the cars to slide and very difficult to keep it off the fence on the exit. And there's this roller coaster that we keep on making reference to, that you've got to modulate the brake over the humps, because you can't apply the, you apply the brake heavily at the start as Moffat gets down the inside of Russell Engel. Good move. But when you do that, you've got to, as the car goes over the rise, you've got to take some brake out of it and it goes back into the dip, and you can apply more brake as the load comes back again. So it's a very difficult way to modulate the brake pedal through those changing surfaces and the change in undulation.
So Bright stuck together a second here on the Sunday when we concluded the series last year, and he put together a second on the Saturday in 2010. So he's found a happy setup again with this car, and if anything, he's just taken a bit of the pressure away. He's eased off a little bit now and moved the car length ahead of Shane Van Gisbergen. Meantime, Whincup's got the margin out to 2.25 seconds.
Right, so here's the telltale factor. I'm down here on the pit lane. If you look up here and down there, no one's out ready to do their compulsory pit stop, because we are now in that window. And we saw in race 36 earlier, everyone would have, or most of them would have done their pit stop by now. Now look at the colour of that cloud down there. So they're all waiting for that to come over here, and they're going to charge in, and they're going to put on these wet tyres. And it's quite obvious the way that works. That'll pump the water. But looking at the colour of that rain out there, or those clouds, there's no way that's going to have the capacity to pump that amount of water out. So I think it's going to be chaos if it hits.
Hey, Larko, just those tyres there, they're green, they're brand new, because you can see there how shiny they are. They've got the mould release. They've actually got a surface on them. Some of them also pick a rotor tyre. That's a new one, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And if you come here, Dave, if you just have a look over here, we can see new there, new here. There's actually a lot, and you're dead right, Mark, because that is quite a shiny, slippery, waxy surface, and that'll take half a lap to come off there, and you'll have to compromise your situation. So, yeah, a few teams, I wouldn't call it unprepared, but you would like to have a scrub set here for sure.
I'm totally with you. I would not want to put a green wet tyre on at this place.
Typically some roading would help that cause. So the weather's coming. We'll take a quick break and see what happens on the other side.
Well, it is a tale of two cities right now. That Sydney on the coast is beautiful and sunny down the Northern Beaches way. At the track where we are, as you can see, we have the heavens about to open. If you take a look at the radar up in that middle screen, you can see the orange and the red, which means a pretty heavy fall is right on our doorstep right now. That is going to change, guys, the complete complexion of this race.
And yesterday when it came through late in the day, it only lasted for about 10 or 15 minutes, but you got your money's worth for the 10 or 15 minutes because it was all happening. There was a lot of water dumped on the place.
And as a driver at a place like this, and you see that, everyone would know there's that area at Australia Avenue. When you look down at the bottom of the hill, you'll see those clouds, and when it looks inclement like that, and you just got to start to really get your eye ready for the first thing you see, which will be the shine on the road. It doesn't go dark, it doesn't go a matte black, it actually gets a little sheen on the road first. So, and it can be around this place wet on one end and dry on the other, so you've got to just have now all the sensors organised, and as soon as it starts to get slippery here, you're a pioneer. You painted lines, different bumps, different surface types, different curbs. It's as difficult as you can possibly imagine, Marco.
And gee, what that vision you're looking at on your televisions is much, much brighter than it is here on the ground. It's very dark. I reckon the hot ticket here, mate, is going to be, because it'll rain over in the far quarter, if you like, of the circuit, almost where the guys are now. It's going to rain over there before it does over here on the pit lane, and that's what happened last time. So the smart play for me will be, as soon as you get a good rain over there, get your wets on and get some heat in them, get that wax scrubbed off them that we were talking about, so when the rain hits you've got some temperature, and temperature is such an asset in those conditions. I've done a quick blaze along the pit lane, and seriously, I've not seen a scrubbed set of wet tyres yet.
There's a spot. There's the first spot there on the left-hand side of the screen. So we're just seeing the first signs now of weather in that zone of the track. And as you said, Larko, if you haven't got a scrub tyre, it will be a nightmare in the first couple of laps.
And the way in which the weather has unfolded here in this past week, it doesn't arrive gently. So one of the things they're going to have to be on their game with here is just going to dump water, and massive amount of it, and you won't be able to drive the car on a slick tyre. So at the first sniff, I'd be in for some wets. How's this shot?
But not only that, when we were calling that race in 2010, we're on board now with Fabian looking back at Rick Kelly. Check the clouds. But what happens is the drivers have got to make the call when that happens, Neil. You can't leave it to the engineer who's on the other side of the track. You're the guy on board, you see where the water comes from, and you've got to say, hey guys, we've got to get the tyres on the car. Look at that. Well, yesterday afternoon it just pelted, didn't it? It was,
and there's a 25-second spread across the field. So because we're not very far into this race, what's going to happen here is this will also trigger double stacking, because if it's really flooded wet, there's no way you just leave one car out there and hope that you'd offset your strategy and let him do another lap.
Oh, no way.
Tim Edwards, team principal down here at Ford Performance Racing. How do we manage the chaos that is about to unfold in just a few moments' time with this rain?
Well, we're not quite sure when it's coming. We've seen the carnage that happens here before. I think it's 2010, so we're kind of praying that's not going to happen. But I think if you keep an eye on turn 5, that's where it's going to unfold, because it looks like that's where the weather's going to hit first.
And your guys, Mark Winterbottom, Dave Reynolds, they're right next to each other. Double stacking, no one ever likes that in pit lane. How do we manage that?
Well, we're all right, actually, because Reynolds is obviously in the other pit box. So we've got a little bit of a gap back to Chaz, because they're about 6 or 7 cars apart. So because it's only 4 tyres, Chaz won't have to wait for very long at all. But it's going to be chaos when it happens.
Thanks, Tim.
No worries.
Anytime. Jamie Whincup's got nearly 5 seconds now from Jason Bright. It's business as usual. They're still making good dry pace. Van Gisbergen has got a little bit closer to the back of Jason Bright, and our chopper, he's hung on longer than I would have. He's decided that...
Neil has a pilot's license.
That's right, guys, no way. Half an hour ago to be sipping a cappuccino. So looking at all those silly pilots in the sky, wondering what happens next. So he's bailed, so that might just curtail some of those wonderful images that we've been getting so far this weekend. But and the drivers will be well and truly aware of this now. They'll see these dark, threatening clouds down here in the braking area at turn 1.
And this is it. This is the spot.
That's right. It's down here. So 2010. Tim was speculating, was that the date? Yes, it was. When there was a battle on for the championship.
See the shine?
Yep. Lights are on. And to Mark Larkham's point, just even in our commentary box area and surroundings, it's just mega dark out there. And this is where all the drama was back in 2010. A few radios are starting to light up as drivers are reporting water on the screen. Not quite sure what the teams are supposed to do.
A couple of teams I can see up in the pit lane now starting to get out with their guns, get ready. But, you know, the interesting thing, for all this dark cloud, it hasn't cooled down here yet. It's still very hot and humid. And you know what it's like, just before it rains, you get that massive drop in temperature. That has not happened yet. So, gee whiz, this is going to be interesting. And just listening to Tim Edwards talk there, the other one is that double stack. You've got to say, this is one of the circumstances where every day of the week you'd cost yourself 4 or 5 seconds for a double stack rather than have a car driving around there on slick tyres, as we've seen.
Hey, Larko, just a couple of things. Watch for it to go still, which I reckon it's just about doing now. And then watch for the flags to point the other way. So we've been under the influence of a low-level easterly breeze. It'll go still, and then it'll light up from the southwest. As soon as you see those flags going from the southwest, brother, hide.
First car in, Todd Kelly. Now this could be smart, because if it starts to rain, his tyres will be warm. One of the fortunate parts of going out on a brand new wet tyre, when it's like, look at those discs glowing.
Yeah, see the brake rotor. My goodness me, that was hot.
Look at it, look, you can see them there also. But he may be able to get some tyre temperature in before the rain comes. And look, that drama in the background there with Courtney and Winterbottom battling. This is where the crash happened in 2010. Remember, all the leaders went in the fence when they were caught out on slick tyres. Yeah, they're in the fence. They're all in the fence. What was yours?
That was an interesting move there from Todd, just to be preemptive. But equally, he's got to be a bit careful that he doesn't heat up and knock the edge off those wets as well. So that's a fine line, because you could hurt those in 3, 4, 5 kilometres. You can do damage to those on a dry track.
Yeah, and Kevin Fitzsimmons, the Dunlop Motorsport manager, absolutely saw that and thought it was a big call. But one thing, let's give Dunlop a rap. Their wet weather tyre is great and does cop an absolute hammering. And you're dead right, Neil. The flags have stopped. It's cooling down. She's a-coming.
I reckon he's 2 laps early.
Well, that's 7 kilometres. And so in those 7Ks, Todd will just need to drive it very straight, not spin the wheels, not lock a brake or load it with side load, lateral grip in the middle of the corner, or he'll hurt those blocks and he'll knock the nice sharp edge off that wet tyre, which will hurt its performance. So, but he will have temperature.
Lowndes is coming in too, we just got reported. Yep, so Craig's banking on some tyre temperature.
And if you're down the order, play the risk game. Take a pump. If you're up the front, you're trapped. But if you're down the order, you may as well have a go, because you might end up playing a smart card. So they're placing a big bet. They're betting big on a single number. That might give them a yield.
You had to be conservative then. They've all started being conservative down there off turn 5 into turn 6. It must be just slightly slippery down there now. And what you were saying before, we saw a great shot in the pit lane of those new tyres. If you run them for 6 or 7 Ks on a dry surface, what Neil was making the point about is that the blocks, each of the blocks, when they've got a very sharp edge, they're much more efficient as to how they pump the water, as Tander fires down the inside of Dave Reynolds, and how they pump the water out and release the water from under the platform of the tyre. But if it gets knocked around, so the block, the edge sort of tears up and becomes more circular. Look at the brakes. When that happens, it doesn't pump the water out anywhere near as efficiently. So an early punt is a good one for tyre temperature, but an early punt is a bad one for the actual performance of a wet tyre when it does rain.
Check out the glowing brakes around here. You can see them on all the cars at the moment. It illustrates the brake stress around here. They get up to 800 degrees C in the front brake rotors. This place is incredibly hard.
Oh, here we go.
We're starting to hear about more people coming in on this lap as well on the radio. So there's Russell Ingall, who, by the way, is back in the Lucas Dumbrell Motorsport car. Well, they had a little drama there. They dropped it too early. They weren't ready.
Car 1 in. I just heard Whincup say to David Couchy, Car one in, car one in. Here we go. Look at this.
And those what look like little sparks that you can see around the car, they're actually tiny little fragments of brake pad.
So, hang on, because this is as difficult as you could ever imagine. This is one of the wildest racetracks with all different surfaces, painted lines, the whole lot. You put brand new wet tyres on and it's going to hose. They are the best drivers of touring cars in the world, and there's not one guy in the field right now who'll be prepared for this. This will be unbelievably difficult.
So the race leader's now in. He's got a 7.7 second advantage, and he's blinked. He's in for wets. BJR are running longer. I think one of the Volvos is in. That's McLaughlin.
Look at that sheen on the road. Look at that. That's proper wet. You've got to be in. You've missed it. Whincup is the winner of this. That's too late.
I'm surprised that they were willing to risk it. So this is an ideal call for Whincup. He's come in at the perfect moment. There's those little fragments, those sparks that I spoke of before as Jamie departs. Now these guys are tippy-toeing. Slowly but surely, all control will disappear from underneath them. We're back in the danger zone, up towards turn 5. This is where it lit up in 2010. We're looking at Jason Bright, Shane Van Gisbergen and James Courtney. They are safely through, gently through there. Through the chicane at 6. Bright lights it up in second gear off the other side. Now they've got to negotiate the off-camber at turn 8. They're praying to be able to get back to the pit lane and get wet weather tyres on. Meantime, this is giving a gain to Jamie Whincup. So he's gone out on wets, they've got more grip, he's building margin here. And we need to keep an eye on those that came in earlier on their wets because they'll get a big gain. Here's a move, Courtney. Nice job.
Good job.
Brave job.
Okay, Bridie just confirming pitting this lap.
Andrew Edwards, engineer for Jason Bright, confirming that he wants him in this lap.
Remember, we always rave about Van Gisbergen in these conditions, but that's a great move by Courtney to get down the inside. And now all the stops will take place. They've done a tremendous job. Congratulations to those guys.
Not having a chance.
Superstar driving on that lap to get back. That is very, very good.
Yeah, now Garth is going to be hurt in this. So he'll have to play the double stack game, but there's no option. There's no way you do another lap out there at the moment.
But what you might find is because Whincup went out on a new tyre, on a new wet, it may not have been as fast as we think. So that
we've all got the same problem.
That's right, but what will end up happening here is it's going to be very, very close.
So there's Jamie. Now remember, he had 7.7 seconds when we called it as he came in on. He's stopped. Look at how wet the track is. And it's just going to flood in places. So there's Bright. It'll take a full lap for us to get a full appreciation of the margin.
Please, for everyone at home, this is unbelievable. Jamie Whincup's saying crazy amounts of water. Get the red flag out is what he's saying. So off the road, one of the Wilson security cars there, I think it's David Wall in car 17. Have a look at the water. This, seriously, is as difficult as you could ever imagine.
And there's a couple of other things that'll be going on right now. Keep in mind the cars are 55 to 60 degrees Celsius inside. So the first thing that happens is it's a steam bath in the cockpit. Now there's an anti-fog film on the inside of all these screens, but there's varying specs of windscreens in the field. A problem here for 17 for Wall. He's in the wall. Now he didn't pit.
He stayed out.
Stayed on a slick, and that's just never going to work, unfortunately.
You can't do that. I'm not sure what reason would be behind. Look at the
seasoned
water.
Dunlop engineer there, Noel Kelly. And he provides great track support together with the rest of the team at Dunlop. And look at those conditions. So it's going to be steamy inside, it's going to be foggy inside. You cannot see your braking references, you can't see the traffic. So it ends up being big visual cues. You see a light, and the safety car's now being scrambled.
Good call. Very well done at Cam's Race Control. Tim Shanken, very good decision to stabilise this race. It's too dangerous when it's like that, when there's standing water in a straight line and you can't drive the car in the straight, which is what's happening there now. You have a look at Van Gisbergen in a straight line. He can't even keep his foot on the throttle there.
So did Bright have a moment that I didn't see? Because he's gone back to fourth. So Van Gisbergen with 11 seconds behind.
Whincup with a little moment there around the
so there is, that's the explanation of what happened to Jason Bright. Because I looked up at one point on the margin, it was about 5 odd seconds. So we're going to sneak a quick breakaway. They're under the control of the Petters Chrysler safety car. Whincup is still the leader in terrible conditions.
Haven't heard anything yet, mate. Haven't heard anything. Just line forward, mate. Line forward. Stop left hand side exit 8. I think you've passed it. Correct, yeah. Okay, mate, currently there's 20 left to go. 20 to go, so the two dollars are forward, line forward, and everything. They should red flag it now, though. Wink up if you can. I know visibility is more.
Welcome to Extreme V8 Supercar Racing. We have been pounded with rain. We are under safety car. We are at the 37th race of the year, lap 19 of 37 today, and we're under safety car because of the condition of this circuit at the moment. In parts of the circuit, it is like a lake. You can see the still water which is being held on the circuit, and the wind is blowing, the rain is pouring down. Jamie Whincup is our leader from Shane Van Gisbergen, Scott McLaughlin, Jason Bright, Mark Winterbottom and James Courtney. But this is extreme. Word just in from race control that this will be a suspended race.
Well, there's so much standing water out there. He said it in jest, but Jamie Whincup was battling to keep up the safety car, and it's probably actually not far from the truth. There's just too much standing water, so there's my point. That's the reason why there's a big question mark out there at the moment, and very awkward conditions. And this was a much more intensive cell than the one that we had here yesterday. It looks like it's going to go on for a bit longer, and here's the problem for Dave Wall. So we think still slick tyres because he didn't pit, and they're all just battling to get the cars turned, stopped, and terrible visibility.
People who've been in Sydney for the last few days will be used to this. It's been quite warm and sunny during the day, and then about this time in the afternoon, the sky just erupts. And the Australasia is saying that this has just been a much, much bigger dump than what we've seen previous days.
Line up in the fast lane, one behind the other.
Voice of Tim Schenken, race director in Cam's race control. So he's instructed the Petters safety car to bring everybody into the lane. There's just a staggering amount of water being dumped here at the moment.
All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, the cars will be in pit lane. Stay with us. 37th race of the year.
You've got the call, red flag. We're coming into pit lane.
Can be worked on in the fast lane, provided they don't interfere with the restart of the race, which we are proposing to restart should this weather clear. If they're taken out of the fast lane, they'll be considered then, they will have to hold there and have a restart until all the cars have left pit lane.
It's been an extraordinary season and it continues here at Sydney Olympic Park. The Sydney NRMA 500 racing suspended at the moment due to the amount of rain that has dumped down on the circuit in the last 15 minutes or so. All of the cars are lined up in pit lane at the moment, and this is quite an unusual situation.
Yeah, and already quite a number of the drivers. We'll just listen to Tim.
Working on the cars. Apologies for that. The team's permitted to work on the car.
It's the voice of Frank Adamson. So, still just listening to Tim here, and quite a lot of the drivers are also talking about getting fans into the car to try and deal with the fogging that we talked about.
Have a look at the volume of water.
We need to get past 75% distance to be able to award full points, and that's 28 laps. And if it's true to form of what we've seen earlier in the week, it won't hang around forever, but it's a question of how long, and this, as always, will be a time-certain event. And there's the reason why you just can't conduct a race in those conditions.
We should maybe toss the skis on.
So we're going to sneak away and have a bit of a break here, gather our facts, figure out exactly what's going on, and keep you updated on the other side of it. This is the Sydney NRMA 500, part water ski race, part V8 supercar event.
A couple of umbrellas, please. Umbrellas. Mate, I feel sorry for you. I feel sorry for all you boys. They're on their way down. Well, you got a decal with the car anyway. Okay, mate, under the safety car, or right now, can you just turn your headlights on, try and take a good power.
It sure is different. The cars are lined up in pit lane. The race has been suspended due to incredible amounts of water that have come down from the heavens here at Sydney Olympic Park. Rihanna?
Sorry for the loud noise, guys. There's some work happening on the car as we sit here. Shane Van Gisbergen, we talk about how much you enjoy wet weather racing, but this is a little bit too much even for you to handle.
Well, you're wrong to start with. I hate racing in the rain, but this is terrible. Like, they made the right call, red flagging it. It was too dangerous. So hopefully it dries up enough that we can at least get a race underway, because we need to. But hopefully Jamie's car's all right. I saw a lot of smoke coming out of it, and it looked like it was grenading itself. So hopefully we can, he's still going, we can have a race, because he's awesome to race in the wet.
Thanks, Shane. Good luck for it.
Cheers.
Mark Winterbottom, one of the cleverer guys in the pit lane, who's got out of the car and come in under cover, mate. You've been around a long time, seen a lot of wet races. When was the last time you saw that much standing water from your race driving seat?
Yeah, it was probably 03 when that sand down, when it was hailing and stuff, and you saw cars going off behind the safety car. That's what it felt like then, you know. I'm not sure what we're waiting for, because it's still raining, it's incredibly dark, the clouds aren't going anywhere, and the puddles on the track are bigger than swimming pools, so yeah, I got out. I'm not sitting in. I don't want to go back out, so I've showed my intention, I guess, and I'm ready to have a palmy and chill out tonight.
It was interesting. We were having a lot of chat when all you guys were out there, because we saw this in 2010. The really clever call for me was to get the tyres on early, but obviously not too early, because it's always going to rain in that quarter before it rains down here. Were you happy when you got in and got your tyres and got out again?
Yeah, I went a lap too long. It's hard, you know. You listen to the team, and when I come round just before the pits, it was dry, so you go, can I make up more time in the dry spot and then compromise a bit in the wet spot? But unfortunately, it was torrential rain at one, and you drive past pit lane and your team sort of go, you know, we told you so type thing. So, yeah, one lap too long, but, you know, I'll be surprised if you get points, and this is actually a race, because it's under half race distance, so it might be a non-event anyway, and but yeah, I'm thankful I'm on tyres. Last time here in 2010, 15 cars ended up in the fence, and I was the pioneer, so you definitely learn from that.
You have learned. Thanks for the chat, mate.
Cheers, Tal.
Well, just be careful not to get any rain in Jason Bright's car here. We know we don't want to spoil anything inside the car. Now, Jason, there's a lot of work going on up and down here with some other cars, but you're sitting in here nice and calmly, obviously happy with the car, but obviously not happy with the conditions.
Yeah, the car was really strong then, so it was pretty disappointing. I felt like, we had Shane covered, but Jamie was sort of off on his own a little bit. But yeah, it was little bit disappointed that the rain came because, you know, I thought we were looking all right. Been a bit foggy in here.
Just explain to us how torrential and difficult it was for you guys out there.
Sorry?
Just explain to us how difficult it was for you guys out there.
Oh, I mean, when there's lying water with these tyres, you're just nowhere. Like, you know, I was almost at a standstill at the corner at the end of the back straight there, and I was just locked up going straight ahead. I turned it around and I saw an HRT car coming straight at me. You know, you're barely going over 100 k's in this aquaplane. There's just so much lying water. So, yeah, a little bit disappointed that they let it go as long as what they did. I mean, I think that when you can't see out the windscreen and when you're aquaplaning that much, they probably could have saved a fair bit of damage if they put the safety car out sooner.
Thanks, Brady.
Cheers.
Now, down here with Davey Reynolds, and I've just been looking into Davey's eyes, and believe me, I mean, I've been there, mate. It's no matter what we think, what we say, drivers are not afraid of the wet, but we don't like the wet because you lose some control of the car, of the circumstance. There's all the risk management in the world sometimes doesn't stop. But I looked in your eyes when you're coming here, mate. I can see, yeah, exactly. You're a little concerned.
Mate, yeah, it's very, very wet out there. I don't think this track's designed for any type of wet weather whatsoever. I told the boys to ring Noah, get the animals ready, because we've got to build an ark to get back out there.
And let me ask you, I mean, the cars are out here, they're allowed to work on them at the moment. If we get this restarted, and I've got to say, still a lot of rain to come, can you and would you change something on your car now?
Well, I don't know, what's there to change? Yeah, you probably could, bit of camber, maybe some spring, roll bar. Yeah, you could do a lot. It's not going to dry up anytime soon. I don't think we're going to get out anyway.
And the other thing for, I guess, people at home that don't understand, these are not like your road cars, so it's very hard to stop the water going inside. You've got a metal floor, so the inside starts to steam up. Is your car, I've heard a couple of drivers say the car got full of water inside just then.
Yeah, mine's like a leaking sieve. I should have had a bucket ready for it to catch all the water. Mate, it was going on everywhere. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it is. It's quite a freak one. We've had a bit of everything in this championship, haven't we, mate, this year? And anyway, I hope you get back out there soon.
Thanks, mate. See you soon.
All right, we'll leave Larko and David Reynolds to continue staring into each other's eyes for now because there's not much happening out on the track at all. All the cars laid up in pit lane. Racing is suspended. We'll see what unfolds right after this break. The Sydney NRMA 500 currently suspended, our 37th race of the year. For this reason, and the amount of water that is on the circuit when the heavens opened, we got a bucketing. And it just created chaos right around the track. So we are suspended and just on hold at the moment while we wait and see what this weather and this amount of rain might do. Good time to take a look at the highlights.
So let's have a look at this start, because it was a big slide there by Bright. We're on board now with Whincup. He got the best run, and they were 4 abreast into turn 1. McLaughlin and Whincup made contact, and then Lowndes made contact with Ambrose, who then spun in front effectively of young Jack Perkins. And Ambrose got going again. He's way back down in 21st, but you could see the level of activity that was taking place. Todd Kelly was the first one to blink. He come in and put those tyres on a couple of laps earlier than anybody else. And then Whincup, perfect timing. It was the lap when the heavens opened. The next lap was Van Gisbergen, Reynolds, Bright, Coulthard. And as Mark Beretta just said, we were pelted with rain. It was a massive amount of water, and David Wall was caught out. He was actually on slick tyres, I think. We confirmed that for you, but he spun basically going along on a straight line. And look at the amount of water there as Todd Kelly comes through the turn 2-3 chicane. That's the top of Olympic Boulevard. That's the Merchandise Alley. And on board, that's either, I can't tell whether that's Marcus Ambrose or Dave Reynolds there. It's a green Falcon. But look at the water and the standing water. So what a lot of the drivers are saying is when that water is like that, and because it's a street circuit, the water is effectively held on the road, and you can't drive the car even along in a straight line without losing control. So Cam's race control, Tim Schenken, has decided to suspend the race, very similar to the Bathurst event that we suspended. And Marcus Ambrose there feverishly trying to get organised. Rain is abating a little bit there. It's not as heavy as it was.
So if you are following Marcus Ambrose today, by the way, he sits in 21st at the moment. Our leaders, Jamie Whincup and Shane Van Gisbergen. And Craig Lowndes sits in 20th. He's had a pretty colourful weekend so far. He's with Rihanna.
Craig Lowndes, first and foremost, I want to know how you're feeling. I know your ribs were a bit sore after that qualifying incident. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. I'm taped up, so the first race this morning was a little bit sore. That actually wasn't too bad. So just seeing what this weather does now, that's probably the worst conditions I've ever been in.
Just explain to us, because it's hard for us sitting outside the car to imagine what it is like for you guys in there.
Well, we come in a couple of laps early, put some wets on, try to get the jump on everyone. But, of course, when the rain came, it just came down so quickly. It got dark first, and then it just came down really quickly. And, like, I was aquaplaning from basically the checker flag all the way down to turn 1. So it was terrible. There's rivers running everywhere, especially down the back going into turn 9. We got the undulation. There's actually rivers down in the gullies of all that. So, it's... To be honest, it probably should have been red flagged a couple of laps earlier, because I was complaining to the guys, if I didn't have cars in front of me, I wouldn't know where the track goes. It was the car was fogged up, but because there's no street lights, it was so dark you couldn't see anything. So anyway, we'll see what happens.
I'm glad you've still got a smile on your face, and I hope you're feeling better tomorrow.
Yeah, cheers, thanks.
Yeah, just been watching with interest the sorts of things they've been doing, because they were allowed to work on the cars. And interestingly, the number one job that's been done up and down the pit lane here is to do with driver vision, because I can tell you in these conditions, vision is everything. As we know, our drivers sit very, very low in the car, and visibility is very tough. And that steam that comes up, if we have a look at Mark Winterbottom's car there, you see we've all got a single wiper that wipes right down low on the windscreen level, because you actually, as a driver, you sort of look through the bottom 2 or 3 inches of the windscreen. So a lot of work in defogging windscreens. And Scafey, you just said, you're right, mate, the rain abated, but now it's picked up again. And if I could make a prediction, I'd say, well, I certainly have a strong sense it's going to be this level of wetness for the rest of the rest of the race. So it ain't over yet.
And Cam's race control, Tim Schenken, has advised that he's going to get everybody out there behind the safety car at 47 past the hour local summer time. And there they are inside Cam's race control. It's, I think that'll be the back of Steve Preece on the right, Tim Schenken in the centre, Jason Bargwanna there, driving standards observer and former V8 supercar driver and race winner. So it's a big mission for those guys to manage this. We're right at a critical edge in this motor race too, because in terms of points classification, we need to be beyond 50% of the race, 37 lap race, in order to be able to award full points. If we don't get to a classified point beyond that, there won't be full points awarded. And it effectively, in some sense, then becomes, I guess, a no race almost. But because under the scenario of stopping the event like we have at this point, if it actually turned into a race stoppage, not a suspension, even though there are 19 laps showing in the computer at the moment having been recorded, it'll be backdated. This happened at Bathurst in 1992 when Mark and Jimmy won the race. It's just part of the protocol of the sport. Because some of the triggering in this, of course, was that, you know, when they dribbled into the lane, they clicked another lap. So in order to be able to get a clean result, they go back to the last sort of genuine lap.
I'm interested, I'm sure Larko took note of what had gone on with a lot of the cars, because I would have pumped the tyres up incredibly now. I would have raised the pressure in the tyres, because it's seriously wild out there, and I would have softened all the springs. I would have done all the shock absorber settings and sway bars, disconnect them, everything.
Just to interject quickly, Mark, I know it's step on your point here, but Whincup has just been told by Dave Couchy that if he feels in any way that it's dangerous or a compromise, he wants him to get in and park the car. They don't care about the results, so sorry, continue.
Yeah, no, but that's obviously a really good point, because Jamie was complaining before the race was suspended that he couldn't keep up with the safety car. That's how wet it was and how slippery it was. And we have seen, Mark Winbottom made the point before, 2003 at Sandown, we were behind a four-wheel drive Audi, and when it hailed, and it was all basically like snow.
It's a horrible feeling when it's so
we're out of
bad.
control. Totally out of control.
That 92 Bathurst was horrific, and the cars were still doing 300 kilometres an hour in a straight line. Kept pulling your belts tighter and tighter and tighter. I joked afterwards, ended up like a half-open pocket knife at the end of it, because just pulled myself into the bottom of the seat.
I was just having a chat to that agitated David Couch, and good on him. He wants to look after his driver, and he is a little bit concerned about him, so he was having an agitated conversation with me. So then he grabbed Dave Stewart, the technical director for V8 Supercars, had an agitated discussion with him. Dave put his hands on his shoulder calmly and said, mate, that's what the race director's for. He'll make the right decision.
And give them credit, because that was the right decision. Tim Shankin and the team there have made the right call on this, and there could have been cars crashed everywhere if they didn't make that call. He's a very, very experienced man. He was a very high-level racing driver. Raced all around the world. He's a works driver for Ferrari. Tim now talking to people.
Yeah, just looking down that Cam's race control. You're dead right, mate. I can't support you enough there. Tim, well credentialed to make this call. And not only that, got Jason Bargwana sitting next to him. And I had Bargs drive for me for a few years, mate. And he's of all the drivers I've worked with, he has a magnificent read on the play in these situations. He really does get a good read on it. So, yeah, they'll make the right call.
Yeah. So very good. And a big shout out, I know Neil said this earlier, but a big shout out to all our officials and volunteers, because they've been out there in these conditions whilst this race was suspended, and they're on flag points, and they've cleared debris off the road again. And our cameramen, they've been out there the whole time. It's absolutely hosed here. So well done, guys and girls.
Just pass another grape and just lower the temp in the commentary box another degree. It'd be nice, thanks. Thanks, guys. It's good.
We'll never get out of here alive.
Stop it.
So I said to Garth Tander before I came up here, it's days like today, it's just a mighty fine idea to be a commentator, isn't it? It's really awkward. They're brave boys in these conditions. So what will Whincup do? No, he's decided just to stay out there despite all that emotion down in the Red Bull garage there a moment ago. It'd be almost impossible to make any temperature in anything out there at the moment as well. I mean, just...
That's why I said I would have pumped the tyres. I would have put a massive amount of tyre pressure in for this, and would have disconnected the sway bars, the anti-roll bars, softened everything else. You know, you probably couldn't change the springs in time there, and you wouldn't want to corner weight the cars, but you definitely would have wound the shocks out and softened everything off. So when the grip level is lower, you have to soften the cars, and when it's like this is just the lowest grip level that you could experience any time on a street circuit, and with the level of water that's out there. So David Couchy's reporting back to Whincup. So still big rivers down the straight, as what Jamie's reported back. When we say rivers, because there is a lot of undulation in this circuit, especially down the main straight on Australia Avenue, the water as it runs down the hill, crosses the track. And Kim Jones there making a comment on board now with Mark Winterbottom. Remember, we've got 11 in-car cameras for all of the action over the weekend, and a 250k race tomorrow to close out our season.
There's a lot of very unhappy people on the radio at the moment, but the choice is there. If you wanted to park it, I guess you could, but there's a few people out there.
And just looking at the circuit there too, the other factor is the amount of debris which ends up on the circuit, which is washed there by the water or comes down out of the trees.
Remember, we're getting closer and closer to that time certainty moment as well, down the bottom left-hand corner of screen.
I can't see this getting restarted based on time certainty and the level of water that's out there. And I did say that there was abating, but it's still raining pretty heavily around the back.
There's weird considerations that pop up when all of a sudden things get odd like this. So just before he went out, Tim Slade was on the radio talking to his group, asking them to mask all the lights, all the shift lights on the steering wheel and other lights in the cockpit, because, for example, when the shift lights light up and they stage to the point where they're signalling you to trigger your gear shift, it's blinding in these because the cockpit light levels are so low, it actually detracts from your ability to see out the car. So he said, just tape them over. It doesn't matter in the wet. So they're trying to manage things that are suddenly not normally in your terms of reference when you're trying to put together a lap time in a racing car.
And what the guys also use is either lights or audio for brake blocking. In these sorts of conditions, if you had a Christmas tree of lights in front of you, it would be locked the whole time because you put your foot on the brake in these conditions. And that's one of the things the drivers have got to do. You've got to immediately go to the rear of the car, so you change the brake bias from the front to the rear, normally about 3 or 4 turns. And they're saying about going green.
There's also a CAMS, Federation of Australian Motorsport, and an FIA, almost an imperative where they like to ensure that races are finished at least under the control of a safety car, rather than having cars parked on the grid or parked in the pit lane. So I'm kind of beginning to sense, with just over 60 seconds to remaining here, that really... And Tim just speaking again. So I don't think we're going to get a restart. There's a medical issue somewhere around the racetrack at the moment. So what this is going to be is a controlled finish with the cars in their frozen positions from where the race was first suspended. And that's probably a good outcome, I think.
I agree. Well, basically it avoids the potential incidents and damage to cars. And it's still pelting down. So Jamie Whincup from Van Gisbergen, McLaughlin, Bright, Winterbottom, Courtney, Slade, Caruso, Pye, Tander. That's the top 10. This will be enough laps to register 4 points. As you can see around the back of the track, this is turn 5 down to the bus stop at turn 6. It is just so wet. And have a look at the water now. That's the run up to the top of Dawn Fraser Avenue. So that was you have a choice to compete, which you said before, the drivers still have the choice to be able to drive the car into pit lane and park it.
Yes.
Which is what the Jamie Whincup scenario was if it was too dangerous. What they've chosen to do under this scenario is not expose them to the risk and finish the race under safety car conditions.
And that being the case, it further shuffles more of the impressive statistics that Jamie Whincup has achieved in his career.
Okay, mate, safety car drop back to 60. Safety car drop back to 60.
On board with Jamie.
Also just an early warning to our viewers on 7 through Victoria, New South Wales and South Australia that shortly we'll encourage you to move across to 7 Mate for continued coverage in our post-race program of today's lively activities here on the streets of Sydney Olympic Park.
So the safety car now comes across the line and they've reduced that pace there because it was still so wet in, especially that section from turn 5 in through the bus stop. Last lap of the race now is being called.
And this has certainly been a much bigger weather event than we've seen in the last couple of days out here, and either in practice yesterday or in preparation in the lead up to this event. Yesterday, for example, it was probably somewhere between 10 and 15 minutes and then blue sky off the back of it, but today it's hung on longer. And just looking in our commentary box area here, there's still a significant amount of radar return on the images that we've got here, so it looks like it's going to go into the early evening, perhaps into the night. In fact, they were forecasting thunderstorms in the Sydney area all the way through to 10 or 11 o'clock tonight, intermittently. So don't forget, tomorrow we've got a 250k encounter. There's a minimum fuel drop in that process as well. And that's a big, long, grueling day. And that puts an exclamation mark on the conclusion of our championship of 2014.
There's a lot of chat between engineers and drivers.
Yeah, that's why I keep stopping to listen to what they're saying. And our understanding at this stage is that we'll get all points allocated, but we'll obviously confirm all the detail when something like this happens. There's a lot of work to go through, a lot of protocol to observe.
How's those images there? The water still standing at the apex of turn 6 and 7. You can see the water spraying off the cars as they come through that curb section. This is again the top at turn 8, the top of Dawn Fraser Avenue, and as Craig Lowndes said earlier, as you get further down this straight, it's got the undulations and the water's laying in the bottom of those undulations. It's running totally across the track as rivers of water at Sydney Olympic Park.
So tyres are going to be cold, brakes are cold, so this is obviously unofficial at this stage. The scenario is that Jamie Whincup will win race number 37 of the championship, Shane Van Gisbergen second, and that's decent recovery after what happened earlier today. Scott McLaughlin, Jason Bright, Mark Winterbottom, James Courtney, Tim Slade, Mike Caruso, Scotty Pye, Garth Tander, Coulthard, Reynolds, Davison, Kelly, Mostert, Wood, Moffat.
I want holding speed, mate. No more weaving.